Hello, femme fatales and plucky fiancés and all the ships at sea, and welcome to A Very Good Year, the movie podcast where we invite a guest to pick their favorite year of movies and talk to us about that year. I'm your host, Jason Bailey, and across the mic and across the country from me is my co-host,
Michael Hull.
Our guest today is an Atlanta-based writer, researcher, and podcaster. She is the co-founder of CineJourneys.com, which she calls an inclusive online film community that is free of the usual online BS. She also co-hosts Cine Journeys companion podcast. Let's say hello to the witty and encyclopedic Jill Blake. Hey, Jill.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's such a pleasure to finally have an actual conversation with someone that I've been exchanging, social media posts and emails with for years now.
It's been several years, so I'm really glad to have this time to kind of chit chat about what we love.
Exactly. Well, okay, let's plug right off the bat. Tell us and our listeners about Cine Journeys, what it is, how it came to be, and how our listeners can get on board.
Yeah, so my co-founder, Aaron West, he and I he had a podcast called Criterion Now. And a few years ago, he asked me to come on and be, actually more than a few years ago, I came on and, guested on the show, and then we kind of get to know each other. And next thing you know, he has me come on to be his co-host for Criterion Now. And then as we're doing that, and it's really a podcast that's geared towards collectors and collectors of Criterion. And so I would say to Aaron, yeah, but there's so many other labels and so many other things that I want to talk about. So we start kind of branching out and putting in new segments into the show. And then we realized that the two of us really love to talk about pretty much anything, film, television, baseball. And then he emails me one day and he says, I have an idea. And he wrote up this what really has become kind of our manifesto. And it was called Jill and Aaron's Film Shits. And that was kind of the founding document of what became Cine Journeys. And really what it was is we were both kind of tired of the current state of film discourse online or lack thereof. Jason, I know you know how dire it is, and how we kind of missed those earlier days of kind of like that web 1.0 simplicity of like the forums and the blogs and all of that. But then also taking kind of that part of what was good about early online film discussion, but also turning it into a more interactive experience. And so we kind of came up with this idea of we would dive into different subjects, whether it was a particular film director or a genre or a year in film or an actor. And we would call it a journey. And we are going on this journey together with our fellow cinephiles. And there would be someone who is brought on to guide said journey, really leaning into that kind of like, the whole travel theme. And so right now we're currently in our summer films journey. We're going to have our coming of age films journey next month. And people, sign up for these. We have calls, we have discussions, we have a forum, we have a Discord. And then there's all sorts of supplemental articles, other, I hate to use this word, but content. And then, of course, we have our podcast and videos and things like that. And so the idea is to kind of foster this positive film community where people are actually thinking about what they're saying instead of essentially what became of, like with Twitter, where it's just like, crappy hot takes and really kind of like distilling what should be really complex, enriching discussions into, stuff that just doesn't, it doesn't make sense. It's like, or we're back to like cavemen speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also making it a super inclusive space for everyone, regardless of whatever. So, and as a woman,
Mm-hmm.
The online experience is not so great.
Yep.
And we have a lot of friends, Jason, both of us, we have friends who are trans. The online space is not so great for them either. So really making this a space where everyone feels like they can chime in and be heard and be welcomed. So that's what it is. But there is this trend, and I know I've been guilty of it, where people who maybe are new to film or are kind of, they're not as well versed in certain eras or genres, they feel afraid to talk about it or to admit that they haven't seen. So I use Casablanca as an example. There's a lot of people that haven't seen it, but they're afraid to say, oh, I've never seen this movie, because maybe they'll be thought of as stupid or whatever. And that really ticks me off. So this is kind of one of those places where people can say, yeah, I haven't seen that. And instead of saying, well, how could you have never seen that before? We say, well, you know, I'm really jealous you're getting to experience this for the first time. Right. So it's really about sharing and like having that collective experience of sharing cinema, and anybody and everyone is welcome regardless of their, fluency in cinema. So
I found that I reached an age where almost everybody I meet who says something like that, I can just be like, it's just because I'm old. And sometimes they're older than me, but nonetheless, it's just because I'm old. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You know, don't worry.
Yeah.
You got it's great.
Yeah.
You should see
no,
it.
there, and that's one of the reasons, really, and we've had off mic conversations about this, why Mike and I are always so open about stuff that we're watching for the first time on the show. That, you know, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty fucking cinema literate, and you just can't see everything. No one has seen everything. We all have our blind spots, and so like, I feel like being sort of forward and transparent about them is part of kind of making everybody okay with their own.
Absolutely.
The site again is cinejourneys.com. Check it out. It's a good community, and everyone is welcome.
Thank you very much.
What year did you choose to talk about with us, and why?
Okay, 1945. Here's the thing. There's probably 10 years that I could have picked here, but 1945 is a great one. I have a love of everything that is just before, during, and just after World War II.
Sure.
And 1945 is kind of a sweet, like 44 to 46. That's really a sweet spot for me. But 1945 is really just, it's stacked. There's so much great cinema, and they're still kind of experimenting and figuring out, well, what's the messaging we want to get here? There's this mix of like propaganda and romance and this feeling of the end of the world. You know, it's such a great period for cinema. When I first started getting into classic film, I was probably more drawn to like the 50s and 60s. And just because some of those felt a little more modern in some ways. But then as I kind of, you know, would follow this actor's filmography or this actor's filmography, and I'd start going further back and back and back, I became obsessed with 1930s, 1940s cinema. But really it's that period of time that I'm just absolutely fascinated with. And then there's also kind of that push and pull between the patriotism and the kind of the propaganda and all that, and then also just absolute cynicism. Yep. So I love that we've got both of those things going on during this time.
Yeah, there's a nice tension there. We're going to explore that tension in this very good top 5. But before we do, Mike is going to walk us through what was going on in the world outside of the movie palaces in 1945. Here's headlines.
I love 1945 movies because, like, by the time half of them came out, the bomb had dropped, but you know they didn't know that when they made them. But some of them feel like they knew it was coming, even though you know they didn't. It's such a, like, wild window to watch the movies through. Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
1945 was all about killing fascists. So this might be the first upbeat news segment we've ever done. Hey! January 30th, Allied troops win the Battle of the Bulge. And I could go into all kinds of detail on a micro and macro level because I'm an American man in his 40s, but suffice to say the Nazis lost and started hustling their tails back toward Berlin.
Bye.
Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin met at the Yalta Conference, which I think was mostly about taking some cool photos. They must have done something else. They had some nice tea cakes, probably. I don't know what they were doing. They must have been doing something.
Yeah.
It was ketamine. They were doing a lot of ketamine.
There you go.
Yes. April 12th, Roosevelt dies, and a shoe salesman from Missouri becomes president of the United States and the first official holder of the nuclear football. Holy granola.
Oh, yeah.
I learned when I was a teenager how unlikely Harry Truman's rise was, and it had scarred me for life. One of those, like, big, thick books, you know, one of those things, you know, you were supposed to be forced to read in college.
How many chapters were there about the fact that he had a middle initial but not a middle name? Was that, like, prominently discussed? Because that's the only thing I ever remember about him.
It was referred to at least once in every chapter.
Okay,
at
great.
least once.
Good.
All I know is that my husband's mama, bless her, God rest her soul, loved her some Truman.
A lot of people did after so many years of listening to that, you know, that Ivy League Tweety bullshit. People were so glad to hear this corn-fed fucking goofball from Missouri. Yeah, you know, there were a lot of people. Yeah, that was a very real thing. He understands us.
Yeah.
Harry. Yep. April 28th, Benito Mussolini and his mistress are captured by Italian partisans, shot and hung by their ankles in the public square. Bravo!
Wow. Couldn't have happened to a more deserving recipient. Fuck.
I think that's how you say good job in Italian. Bravo!
Yeah. Bravo! Bravissimo!
If there was anybody more deserving, April 30th, the little mustache guy and his BFF Eva eat a pistol in a basement in Berlin. Do you know what happened to their rotten corpses? Have you ever heard that story?
I don't. Tell me a rotten corpse story.
The Soviets took the mustache guy's jaw, and otherwise they chopped him up and chucked him in the river because they didn't want to have a grave where people could go and worship them.
Yes.
So they chucked him in the river, but they kept the jawbone because they as proof, because it had, you know, enough of the dental of business intact that it was proof that it was really him. That was what they were using.
Smart.
Yeah.
So where is that right now?
That is somewhere in the Kremlin, and if you can find out, you will definitely not survive to tell me where. So I'm just gonna allow that to be a mystery. I was gonna say,
this sounds like the piece that we left, the lesson they didn't learn when they did that Osama bin Laden burial at sea. Like, gotta take a jaw and chop him up before you chuck him in the sea. For goodness sake.
I feel like that's protocol. That's going to be protocol, right?
You think?
To be for
vile people.
They had DNA by the time they were sending him off to a watery grave. So I'm sure there's a vial somewhere in the American Kremlin that's labeled, you know, Fair OBL. Enough. God, I am bad at this job. This is supposed to be the fun one. This is supposed to be the upbeat news segment.
I'm having fun. I got a smile plastered across my face.
When I picked this year, I didn't even think that all of that happened.
It's the hardest news year of the last time. I mean, it's other than 1941 when, you know, the tide is going in the opposite direction. That year is harder. But
a lot of dead Nazis in this one. Yeah, I'm with it.
Yeah, May 1st. I mean,
come on, let's raise the roof.
Joseph Goebbels and his wife poisoned their 6 kids and then themselves. These are honestly bad people. Like, I'm not making a big deal out of this hyperbolically. May 7th, Germany surrenders unconditionally. May 23rd, Himmler has a cyanide cocktail after he's been caught by the Brits and pretty well knows what's coming. And that's it. Everything after that was super cool, right? Let me scan a little bit down the calendar.
Oh, dear.
Fuck. August 6th and 9th.
Yeah.
U.S. becomes the first and so far only nation to drop an atomic bomb on a populated country. It seems weird nobody's ever made a movie about that, right?
Not a single one.
Not a one.
On September 2nd, the Japanese signed the Japanese Instrument of Surrender, and World War II is officially over. Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Thank
Huzzah.
goodness.
By war.
That's a good thing. That's a good idea.
War, that was great.
In October, the United Nations was created, and bless her little heart, she keeps trying.
She does.
She keeps trying.
Bless her heart.
Bless her little heart. Also in October, the first ballpoint pens went on sale at Gimbel's department store in New York City for $12.50. And that story is fun, both because it involves Gimbel's department store and also because, like, how many other things have gotten both cheaper and better since 1945? Probably not many, but I bet... ballpoint pens. To be fair, at least one other thing has gotten cheaper and better. The first general-purpose electronic computer was assembled in 1945, covering 1,800 square feet of floor space.
That.
Pretty sure it was literally like you had to reboot it 6 times to get it to add 2 and 2. Or it was doing that Terrence Howard math, you know what I mean? Something like that. But anyway, it was an important first step to get us to porn in your pocket. And that's headlines.
Yay!
All right.
Were it not for that, we couldn't be doing this right now.
I was about to say.
We're talking on the computer. Look
at me.
It's amazing.
I picked this year, and this is full circle. This is a full circle moment for y'all.
It is indeed. Jill Blake, you ready to do a top 5?
Let's do it.
All right.
All right.
So we are not ranked. We are not particularly ordered. We're just going to go with what feels right to come next. So, Jill, what are we going to start with?
All right. We're going to go with I Know Where I'm Going.
Hey.
I'm going to be married.
Robert Derringer's one of the wealthiest men in England. Must be nearly as old as I am.
Everything's arranged. We're going to be married on an island called Kaloran. Takes a day and a night to get there. Don't worry about me. I know where I'm going.
By Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger.
The Archers.
And The Archers, yes. And starring Wendy Hiller and Roger Livesey. And let me just say, this movie is one of the most romantic movies ever made. Now, a lot of people, when they think Powell and Pressburger, they think color. Right. And that would be that's the first thing I think of as well, is you think of that beautiful Technicolor that they used in Jack Cardiff cinematography. I think about seeing Black Narcissus and Nitrate at the Egyptian Theater in Los Angeles, and how the flashback scenes of Deborah Carr thinking of her pre-nun life, where she's fly fishing in the water and you can see the water is glistening on this nitrate print. That's the first thing I think of. But black and white cinematography can be, in its own special way, just as beautiful. And this film has some of the best I've ever seen. And it's really a film that the first time you watch it, you're not quite sure what you just watched. It's a movie about everything and a movie about nothing. It's about being in this place and being so caught up in what you think is the right move for you.
Yes.
That you're sitting there and you're waiting for the next phase of your life to begin, and you don't realize that everything around you is exactly what you need. And so it's a very slow film. It's very dry is not the word.
No, yeah,
that's not the word I'm looking for.
I don't think it's
it's
deliberate.
Thank you. It sets out what it's going to do, but it does it in a very British way. And so it's just a stunning film. Roger Livesey is one of the most compelling faces to ever grace the screen. And I know hardly anything about him. There is very little information about this man. There's no biography. There's no memoir, nothing. But my God, every time I see him in a movie, I'm captivated by him. And it's just romance. It's pure romance. And I try to introduce as many people to this film as I can.
Can we get a playlist of movies that happen in the Scottish Hebrides, please? Like, I just off the top of my head, like they range such a wild sort of separation, and this is the perfect one to start your festival with.
You start this one, and then you double feature it with Local Hero.
Yeah.
Which we 1983.
Yeah,
83. We did it.
83, okay.
It was on the show like 2 months ago, so I know it was front of Mike's mind as he was watching this one.
Yes, that was part of it. Yeah,
I mean, those are it, right? Or those the two movies?
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, this one, to speak of blind spots, like this was my first time watch for this one. It was, so you introduced me as well. It had kind of rocketed to the top of my watch list after I saw Made in England, the Palin Pressburger documentary that just came out for that Scorsese narrates.
Okay.
And yes, I was so taken by it. I got to watch it on a Criterion Laserdisc, so that was exciting.
Oh, hello.
What I was really struck by, and I want to ask you this, Jill, as a female critic, was this is, Palin Pressburger wrote and directed it. So this is two men telling a story about a woman. And what I think was so sort of striking to me about it was that she could have been a very passive, weak sort of figure. If you read even the broad strokes of the plot, you could see that happening so easily. And yet this character is so rich and so textured and so independent and so headstrong. And I in this period, that was not the norm for male filmmakers, if I'm not correct.
No, and that's one thing about Palin Pressburger. We see so many. I mean, how many movies are directed by men? I mean, we are not at parity on this whatsoever. And we talk about the male gaze, and there's nothing inherently wrong with the male gaze. But if that's all we're seeing, then, and if that is coloring, if that's not giving us a full picture of a female character, then that is a problem. I don't know how these men do it. Yeah. But every single one of these films, they are giving us a rich female character. I'm sitting there going, God, are these guys gay? And it's probably, I would say next to like George Cukor, maybe, oh God! I mean,
no, that's about it. That's about the list.
Cukor, maybe Lubitsch. Maybe Lubitsch.
Yeah.
Maybe Billy Wilder a little bit. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But I feel like these guys, they just. I've never seen, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've never seen a movie directed by one man, let alone two. And written where you're getting a full rounded female character who, I mean, she's after a man. But we find out all of her reasons for that. And she is strong, and she is, it's just a beautiful character. I'm so glad you brought that up. Every single film of theirs, it's across the board. And that's why I love them so much. Oh.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, Jill, what then is the next movie on your top 5 for 1945?
So let's go to Mildred Pierce.
Speaking of headstrong women.
Mildred. A name gasped in the night. The one last word of a dying man. but one word that tells 1,000 stories of a woman who left her mark on every man she met.
Mildred had more to offer a man in a glance than most women give in a lifetime.
So this movie is Michael Curtiz, directed by Michael Curtiz, and somebody who I'm not quite sure if he did fully portray women in a positive light. Although I do think the character of Mildred Pierce in this is fabulous. And now this is based on the James M. Cain novel, which sadly I have not read. I feel terrible about that. This is a pretty of the era Hollywoodization of that book, and there's some things that are left out, and that's mainly due to the production code. They couldn't do it. Now the HBO little mini series is more accurate to the original text. But this is Joan Crawford's movie. Yeah. She is every bit the star. I have some friends that criticize Joan's acting.
Well, they're wrong.
And I can I think they're wrong. And I think in some of her earlier films where maybe she doesn't have the best direction, I think that maybe she can get a little out of control. Sure. But I would say the same thing for her arch nemesis, Bette Davis. I think when Betty didn't have good direction, she just went nutty. I think Curtiz understood what he had in her here. So. And she's never been filmed so beautifully. Yeah. And this is just a film where I actually had a family friend tell me, this was long before I had our daughter. She said, if you ever watch this movie, you will never have children. And, it's like this, I'm trying to think, Children of the Damned. Yeah. And then, when I was pregnant, don't watch Alien, right. Anyways, this is where a mother's love, where you can go just a smidge too far.
I mean, this is where
a smidge too
this
far.
Is really not a lot of movies dare to pose the question of like, what do you do when your child fucking sucks? Like Vita sucks so bad. Vita is such a piece of shit. And Mildred loves her. She will do anything for her. Anything. And I'm like, Mildred, but have you met Vita? She sucks.
I know. It's so bad. And then the younger one is like the sweetheart. Yep. And then she gets she gets TB or something. I don't know. I can't remember what she catches. Consumption or something like that. And, it's like the writing is so on the wall. I just think about the scene where she makes their maid, who's Butterfly McQueen. Yeah. And she finds the waitress outfit and makes her butterfly wear it. Oh God, she's just and so much smacking.
Yeah.
Can I speak on this for a minute?
Yes, please do.
I'm sorry. I was thinking about this and I was like, this is feels like a theory or something. Feels like more than just a comment. But we talk about New Hollywood all the time and all the different things that are different about it. And, the cameras and all the dialogue and all. But to me, one of the big things is this sort of idea that rich people were right. And that they were sort of that even when they were sort of obnoxious, they were right, which is this awful thing that we brought from fucking England,
yes,
and this terrible, awful white thing that we did. Yeah. And I think that's sort of one of the things that it gets mixed in with some of the conversation, but a big change that happened around New Hollywood time, and we haven't gone back. Every now and then one of the, a tech bro will pay for a movie and they'll try, but we've never actually gone back to this sort of thing where this idea that you're holding the fact that I work against me is somehow supposed to be a sort of compelling emotional plot point.
Right.
And this whole thing revolves around that idea in a way that I just don't think we can relate to anymore. All right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'm done.
Okay.
I've written my book.
There we go. All right, Jill, what is the third movie on the top 5 for 1945?
You know what? Let's go back to England.
Let's do.
Brief Encounter.
Let's do.
I'm a happily married woman. Or rather, I was until a few weeks ago. This is my whole world. And it's enough. Or rather, it was until a few weeks ago.
Can I help you?
Oh, no, please, it's only something in my eye.
Try pulling your eyelid down as far as it'll go.
And then blowing your nose. Please let me look. I happen to be a doctor.
Oh, it's very kind of you.
Oh, turn on the light, please.
That's how it all began.
So this is David Lean.
Early
David Lean. So if you
got to say that, like early David Lean, because we've talked about the epics on this show, and I think that if you aren't really well acquainted with the filmography, if you just know the name, you just think of the epics.
Yeah, you think River Kwai, you think Shivago, you think
Lawrence.
Thank you. That's the big one. Hello. Yeah. But I'm one of those assholes where I'm like, my favorite David Lean is, you like the early intimate ones. But I'm one of those assholes that likes early David Lean. And this movie what it will do is it will wrap you in love, and it'll embrace, and you will feel warm from the romance, from the love. And then as it's hugging you and kind of nibbling your ear, it takes a rusty fucking knife and it jabs it into your side, and doesn't just jab it, it twists it, then moves it to completely disembowels you. This movie is so romantic, so beautiful, and so absolutely devastating. And listen, ladies, I'm gonna tell you, I'm speaking to the ladies here. Hey, you know what? I'm speaking to the men too. I'm speaking to everybody. If you sit here and look at who stars in this movie, and you see Celia Johnson, and you go, "Oh, she's cute," and then you go, "Trevor fucking Howard," like, trust me, though, trust me, it seems unlikely. But it works in that real British way. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and imagine him naked or anything, but he's very, very romantic in this film. If you want to pair it with another devastating romance that also stars Trevor Howard, you got to check out The Passionate Friends. That is another David Lean that, again, I prefer the early ones. And that also has Claude Rains in it, which is fantastic. That would make a great double feature where you feel like you're going to die. Yeah.
No, it is the range of what he could do as a filmmaker is just is genuinely astonishing. There's a reason he has the reputation he has. There are very few filmmakers who are able to work consistently at that high of a quality on that big of a scale, to the extent that much as Cecil B. DeMille had, around the same time or a little before, that a David Lean picture was like a brand that was this very specific widescreen cast of thousands epic production. But the fact that he could do that so well and make a movie that's this small, that's this just the conflict is on a pinpoint, but it is just as rich and devastating and emotionally overwhelming as any of those movies. And the fact that he overwhelms you with what he's doing to your heart as opposed to what he's doing to your mind or to your eyes in something like Lawrence. It's really something to be able to do both of those things. Not a lot of people could.
Well, and I think a lot of it really comes down to where he's got his start as an editor. So, and that's, before he was a director. So I think he really, and it's just like when you think about, to bring up, say, Billy Wilder again, I mean, he was writing films before he was directing them. So you have, or like, William Wyler was working as like a second unit cameraman, early on in his career. So I think that there is something to be said about, kind of learning these other parts of filmmaking that, I think it makes, and not everybody needs to go through this, but I mean, I think it does speak to the signature style of these filmmakers. And David Lean had a signature style. Also, someone could go, oh, he was an editor. Well, it doesn't show because, Lawrence of Arabia is 4 hours or something. There's always some smart ass that says, well, he obviously didn't learn too much. He wasn't good at it. But that's my like online guy voice. But I think it does especially in these early films of his, I think it really does show that he understood kind of the fundamental craft of filmmaking.
I agree.
It's just a beautiful film. And again, if you only know his Technicolor, widescreen epics, with you speaking to kind of like the intimacy where it's like, all the scenes are a lot of them are taking place in a train station and it's foggy, and it's in black and white, but it's just as stunning as seeing, Alec Guinness building a bridge. So,
yeah, no, it's so fascinating because I was just having a conversation with a couple of film critic friends today about how reliable the film editor to film director pipeline is, that he's a good example of it. Hal Ashby is another one, Robert Wise.
Yes.
And then interestingly, Charles Crichton, who is a name that appears elsewhere on your list. Should we maybe just like take that very natural transition to the next movie?
Let's go
on your
for
top
it.
5. What would that picture be?
That would be Dead of Night.
Yeah.
Know this part of the world at all? No. I've never been here before.
Like some tea, wouldn't you? Do you take milk and sugar? Milk and sugar, Mr. Craig. Milk and sugar, Mr. Craig.
Still there. So it isn't a dream this time?
I beg your pardon?
Yes, it isn't a dream this time. I must be going out of my mind.
I love that you were thinking kind of the same thing here, because I thought, well, we'll just end on like the most bonkers shits of the movies that I picked. But Dead of Night is a really weird movie. And it's really, again, British. Yeah. And it's a, let's see, it's a kind of a,
well, it's an anthology.
Vignettes.
Yeah, it's
anthology.
Multi-director.
And we have, 4 directors here. So we have Cavalcanti, we have Charles Crichton, who you just mentioned. We have the badass motherfucker Basil Dearden, and we have Robert Hamer. I love me some Basil Dearden. Victim is like one of the greatest films ever. Love it. So this movie, the first time I saw it, I had no earthly idea what I had just been through. Basically these people converge in a week. It's the old Weekend at the Country House.
They're on holiday, holiday, That's what they call it over there when you go on a little vacation.
This is the old holiday, governor. And so they're at this country estate, and they get to talking about these kind of supernatural events that they've all experienced. And so I'm trying to think of all. So let me just run through very quickly who's in this movie. Okay. So Michael Redgrave, he's in the most fucked up of the vignettes. And then we have, I just wanted to give a shout out to Googie Withers because let's just be honest, that's like the best name ever.
Yes.
But really where I want to, give some attention to here is the pair of Basil Radford, or maybe they say Basil there. I think they say
Probably.
Basil.
Oh.
So Basil Radford and Naughton Wayne.
Okay.
And I love me some Basil Radford and Naughton Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
You may know them from the Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Lady Vanishes.
Mm-hmm.
And they play the characters Charters and Caldecott. And they are kind of the comic relief in that film. And so Radford and Wayne kind of played those similar characters, and actually in several movies played Charters and Caldecott. So in Night Train to Munich, Crook's Tour, but then they play similar characters in this film.
Okay.
And that kind of vignette in Dead of Night is the one that's kind of weirdly more alarming than the Michael Redgrave one, because it's like still the comic relief, but you're like, what is it?
Yes.
And then there's a I think the Googie Withers one is the mirror where they can see themselves in different situations. That one's freaky. Yeah. But the Michael Redgrave one is there's a dummy.
Mm-hmm. A ventriloquist dummy, yes.
And a ventriloquist dummy. Mm-hmm. There's that.
Yep.
It's really scary.
It's freaky as shit. They're all like those things are always freaky, and I feel like a lot of that started here. I feel like this is ground zero for the creepy ventriloquist dummy.
I feel like this, like, and it unleashed something into the world. Mm-hmm. And maybe every time we watch it, maybe we're doing more damage. I don't know. It's just a really great movie and weird and extra British, real British, super British.
It is. I wasn't, I'm always surprised, and I shouldn't be like it should not be a thing that I'm just like so recency bias, so, snooty about our present but when a movie does something that's really formally innovative in this era, I'm especially sort of whoa, for no good reason. This is 4 years after Citizen Kane, but the movie is at risk of getting into the weeds. It's sort of predicated on a deja vu that a guy is experiencing, a guy who's coming to this farmhouse is experiencing a sense of deja vu, and then like when we get to the end of the movie, he arrives again and we see him experiencing that again. Right. And so like the way that they replay all of that at the end of the movie, like with the end credits going, everything, I was just like, this shit is bananas. This is ingenious. I love this. This was my first watch also. This was the other first time watch on this list. Watched it this morning. Oh my God. Blew my mind. Yeah. Yes! Terrific movie. Terrific movie.
Oh my God. So, I am so happy because this is another one where like, hey, there's this movie.
Not well known.
You gotta watch it.
Yeah.
No, not at all. So I am so stoked. And there's a really, really great Kino Blu-ray that came out like in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so. That is fantastic. And the cover is so freaky. Cool. It's got like a demon devil man on it. It's so good. And I just love people see this and they're like, oh, it's an old movie from 1945. Like what could happen? And then they're like, holy shit. What was up with that? That was really freaky.
All right. Well, what is the one movie then of 1945 that could sort of top that one in its extravagance and outrageousness, Jill Blake?
Listen, this movie. Now, we've talked about here about how like Powell and Pressburger really, we've got like kind of a very strong, positive woman. Mildred Pierce, again, there's a little bit of crazy there, and there's, you could be a little critical of some portrayals there, but ultimately Mildred's like is a good woman. So this last movie is by John M. Stahl, directed by John M. Stahl, and it is leave her to heaven.
What shall be done with a jealous woman?
Shocked, don't you? If you were having the baby, you'd love it. Well, I never wanted it. Richard and I never needed anything else. And now this.
How can you say such wicked things?
What are you running away from? Is it me?
Ellen, when we were kids, you used to torment me every way you could think of. You can't do that anymore.
Is it Richard?
If you must know, I'm going away because I can't stand living in this house any longer. The whole place is filled with hate. Your hate.
Not hate. Love, Ruth. Richard's love for me.
Everything that transpires in this movie is the most unhinged shit I have ever seen.
I mean, I think people think they've like seen a femme fatale if they've seen, Double Indemnity.
No.
And let me tell you what, Ellen Barrett in Leave Her to Heaven makes Barbara Stanwyck's character in Double Indemnity seem like a Doris Day heroine.
This woman, can we spoil here? Are we spoiling?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I think, we're just shy of the 80-year mark, and I think the 80-year mark is the traditional spoiler marker, but we'll bend it a little. I think we can get away with it.
Good. I just, all right. Yeah. Listen, this movie's got everything. Well, okay, let me back up. This is a film noir. It is in color. In color.
Yeah.
Also, I have seen this movie in nitrate, and let me tell you, it makes the crazy even crazier.
Crazy pops bigger on nitrate.
It does. This movie's got everything. It's got, hey, I don't want this baby anymore. I'm gonna get gussied up in my nicest nightgown and heels, and I'm gonna throw myself down some stairs. This is the era post Dobbs. Women are chucking their bodies downstairs night and day. But Gene Tierney was doing it first. So we got that going on. We got, this kid's got TB, consumption, and he's trying to build his strength back. And then she's like, you know what? Let's swim to the middle of the lake. And then she sits there with her sunglasses and just watches that kid tread water until he can't tread water no more. That shit is
just watches him drink the fucking lake in her sunglasses. She does not flinch.
Ice cold.
Yeah.
Let's see. Those two moments are super unhinged. But she also goes riding her horse I think they're in Arizona or New Mexico or something. And she's riding her horse up in the mountains of New Mexico. And there's this music. Who does the music in this movie? Somebody incredible. I can't remember. But the music swells and she just starts chucking her dad's ashes out of an urn, just swinging the ashes left and right. And she's holding the urn like a football. And and she's perfectly made up. She's gorgeous. The camera loved Gene Tierney. That was the part where I was like, what the fuck movie is this? This is incredible. And then she kills herself by, to get back at her husband. She poisons herself. So the first time I saw this movie, I thought I had a brain bleed. I could not believe that this film had been made. It is out. It is. And every time I've shown it to someone, I showed it to my husband. He's like, what are we watching here? This is insane. And the urn scene, every time it gets you. It's like that crazy music, and she's just galloping on horseback, chucking ashes everywhere. I will say, I do want to point out that Cornell Wilde. Now, if any ancestors of Cornell Wilde are listening to this, my apologies. But Cornell Wilde has the most punchable face in Hollywood history. He kind of is like this rubbery Ken doll looking thing. And he's just not a great leading man. No. But it kind of works in this film, because he's easily, I don't know, he's just a weak character.
Yeah.
Vincent Price is
amazing
in this.
Yeah.
And there's a whole courtroom sequence that is bananas. Yeah. And he's really over the top in his very Vincent Pricey way. And then of course we have Ray Collins from the Mercury Troupe. Gene Tierney, listen, and of course Gene Crane, but Gene Tierney, just tragic story, surrounding her. And when she made this film, like, and very seriously, the character is obviously extremely not okay, mentally ill. And Gene Tierney at the same time was dealing with her own serious mental illness. So when you kind of go into this and you know that it definitely rings a little differently, it's still a batshit movie and I love it.
Yeah. To answer your earlier question, because I did look it up, the composer is the great Alfred Newman, of The Diary of Anne Frank and of All About Eve, and Flower Drum Song and How the West Was Won, and here's your trivia for the show, the composer of the 20th Century Fox fanfare. There you have it. There you go. There's your guy. So really, we made a Star Wars connection. This will be great for our SEO. That he composed a piece of music that was in Star Wars. All right, Jill Blake, thank you for that journey through 1945. See what I did there?
Hey.
All right, let's find out all about the other big doings of the entertainment business in the year of 1945. Here is Mike with the Hollywood Minute.
Hollywood freaks on the Hollywood scene.
The big winner at the Oscars for 1945 was Billy Wilder's alcoholism drama The Lost Weekend, which snagged prizes for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. Ray Milland.
Jill, Lost Weekend, thoughts?
It's great. Great use of theremin.
There, yes, absolutely.
That's a fucking movie review right there. Joan Crawford picked up an Oscar for Best Actress for Jill's beloved Mildred Pierce.
That's right.
While Best Supporting Actress went to Anne Revere for National Velvet, and Best Supporting Actor went to James Dunn for A Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
Jill, where do you land on National Velvet or the Tree Growing in Brooklyn?
Okay, so National Velvet, was it 1945? It was 1945, or was it 44?
Yeah.
It was 45?
Yeah.
I can't believe I don't have this on my list, because National Velvet is amazing. And Anne Revere was incredible in that. And let me just say, she was blacklisted because she was a badass and liberal and it destroyed her career, but she was fantastic in National Velvet.
Meanwhile, The Lost Weekend swept the same 3 categories at the third Golden Globes, but Best Actress went to Ingrid Bergman for The Bells of St. Mary's.
Hello.
Angela Lansbury won Best Supporting Actress for The Picture of Dorian Gray, and Best Supporting Actor went to J. Carroll Nash for A Medal for Benny, a movie that I have never even heard of.
Nor have I. Jill?
I don't think I've heard. What the hell?
All right. Bells of St. Mary's, Picture of Dorian Gray. Like either of those?
Boom, boom. Yes, both. Lovely. Love them.
Bells of St. Mary's was also the year's box office champ, with Leave Her to Heaven coming in second.
Yeah.
And everybody loves priests.
So good job, Americans.
Everybody loves priests and nuns.
There we go.
Hitchcock's Spellbound, The Valley of Decision, and Anchors Away rounded out the top 5.
Jill, thoughts on any of those?
All right. So we said Anchors Away. Cute, super cute. Young Dean Stockwell's in that. Love it. Valley of Decision. Greer Garson, Gregory Peck, and also a young Dean Stockwell. Fantastic movie. And then what was the third one? What was the third one again?
Hitchcock's Spellbound.
Okay. Weird. And it has that great Salvador Dali dream sequence in it. Hot Gregory Peck, hot Ingrid Bergman. Love it.
There we go. Who knew that Dean Stockwell was such a box office Viagra early on in his career? Good for him.
Some bold-faced names entered the world in 45, including actor Steve Martin, Helen Mirren, Henry Winkler, Bette Midler, Mia Farrow, Goldie Hawn, Tom Selleck, Barry Bostwick, Linda Hunt, Adrienne Barbeau, Lonnie Anderson, John Lithgow, and Ernie Hudson.
Holy shit.
Wow.
What a year.
Yeah.
Actor and singer Debbie Harry, producer and Licorice Pizza character John Peters, and directors George Miller, Roger Spottiswoode, Terrence Davies, Curtis Hanson, Wim Wenders, and Rainer Werner Fassbinder.
Good God.
What a list.
What a year.
Good year. Good year to get born.
I picked a good year.
Also, they were all too young to be drafted. So
that's even.
And on November 16th, Famous Studios via Paramount Pictures released the animated short The Friendly Ghost, which introduced the world to the title character, an apparition by the name of Casper. What up, 1945? And that's your Hollywood Minute.
All right, thank you, Mike. Jill Blake, you're ready to do a lightning round.
Let's go.
All right, you know how it works. I'm going to feed you a list of movies we haven't mentioned yet from 1945. You can comment briefly on each or pass if you wish. And here we go. I had another David Lean movie in 45 called Blithe Spirit.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it.
Christmas in Connecticut.
Amazing. Stanny is gorgeous, and there's lots of rocking chairs.
The two Johns, Ford and Wayne, collabed for They Were Expendable.
Okay, listen. John Wayne's a piece of shit, but They Were Expendable is a fantastic movie.
Yes. Mr. Wayne was in fact busy in 1945 beyond being a piece of shit. He was also in Back to Bataan, Dakota, and Flame of the Barbary Coast. Any of those?
Just keep going. We'll pass those.
Detour. Edgar Ulmer's Detour.
Oh, hello. That's a good film noir.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, maybe the only femme fatale performance of the year that could give Jean Tierney a run for her money and leave her to heaven. I'd say
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Fritz Lang's Scarlet Street.
Oh, that one's really good.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice new 4K from KL Studio Classics. Pick it up.
Oh,
Otto Preminger's Fallen Angel.
Okay, so that's Linda Darnell, right? And Linda Darnell and Dana Andrews. Yeah, that one
sounds right.
That one's great.
Hold on, now I'm double checking.
You have finger movement sound effects that are just, there's no way they're ever going to translate to the podcast medium, but they
good.
work. I am personally enjoying them very much.
I was really getting excited, and then I realized this is not being, the video is not being recorded. That's a great one.
The one and only Roberto Rossellini's Rome Open City.
You know, I hear that he was not a bad filmmaker.
Yeah.
No, it's great. That's a good one. If you haven't seen it, get on it, kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Get yourself a little bit of that neo-realism the Italians were into. The aforementioned Betty Davis starred in The Corn is Green.
You know, Betty, it's fine.
I don't know how it is as a movie, but I know when you're doing dinner prep, if the corn is green, you're in bad shape.
It's just like, you know, no, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Lawrence Tierney as Dillinger.
Wait. Huh? That one.
Lawrence Tierney as Dillinger.
I did not know that movie existed.
There we go.
Okay.
Jennifer Jones and Joseph Cotton in Love Letters.
Okay, I have actually not seen this one, but they were in Portrait of Jenny together, and that's just a weird movie. I don't know. I love Joseph Cotton, not great on Jennifer Jones. So we'll see. I don't know. I might check that out.
Joseph H. Lewis's My Name is Julia Ross.
That one I have also not seen. Look at me. I've got some movies to watch.
There we go. Disney's The Three Caballeros.
I have seen that. It's a movie.
It is. It is. We had 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 of the Basil Rathbone, Nigel Bruce Sherlock Holmes movies in 1945. The House of Fear, Pursuit to Algiers, and The Woman in Green.
Those are all really fun. They're not they're not masterpieces, but they're fun. Check them out.
Yes. Yes. I've seen them all. I could not tell you one thing about any of these 3 to distinguish them from the other. It's just like a good little 13 episode television show. Speaking of ongoing series, The Thin Man Goes Home was released in 1945.
Listen, that is not the best of the Thin Man movies. Nope. And usually when you get past like 3, 4, I can't really remember a whole lot. Also, Dean Stockwell is in...
Holy shit.
He's in that one. Wait.
He is. He's in some of them. He plays the kid. He plays the kid. And yes, there you go.
I think he's in that one. So again, I just can't remember. It's like the first 3 I'm like all about. After that, but they're all fun. I mean, come on, Myrna Loy,
but they're all
William
fun.
Powell, they're great.
All still worth a look. Tracy Hepburn and Lucille Ball in Without Love.
This one's bizarre. Again, I love me some Hepburn, Tracy. Without Love is a little weird. But check it out. It's just weird. Not my favorite.
And there we go. That wraps up your lightning round. Excellent work, Jill Blake. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh, God. So what's the Blue Sky thing? How do I say that? I would be at biscuitkitten.bsky.social. Is that right? Is that how that works?
Yeah, but Biscuit Kitten's enough. People remember Biscuit Kitten. That's good. That's enough.
They talk about like the different servers and the thingamajigs. I don't know. But Biscuit Kitten is typically the name one may find me under. I am that also on the Instagrams and then like Cine Journeys, we have like an Instagram and we have a Blue Sky. I'm no longer on Twitter. I used to be on the Twitter.
Yep.
And then I totally nuked my account. I'm done. I'm gone. But come find me there. I think I'm on Threads, but not really. And then if you're not,
I don't know anyone who's like purposefully on Threads. They just sort of like accidentally posted a gram one day that went there and now they have an account.
I think I accidentally signed up for it. Like I clicked a button and then I was like, wait.
Yep.
There you go. And then if you're not a total pervert, I'll add you to my Facebook.
There you go.
Yeah.
And the website again is
cinejourneys.com. Come check it out. And we'd love to have all of you. And we're going to have some awesome people on soon to guide some journeys. And it's going to be great.
I am Fun City Cinema on Instagram, Jason-Bailey on Blue Sky and Letterboxd, where you can find under my list the top 5s for every episode of the show. Mike, where can people find you?
I am Brainwashed Lib on Twitter, Fifth Column Films on Instagram and Blue Sky, and I will only add you if you are a pervert.
I love that.
And of course, if you like the show and think other people might like it too, please leave us a rating and or review on your podcatcher of choice. It helps us out so much. Also, if you'd like to join our mailing list and get weekly show notes and updates and all of that good stuff, you can do it at buttondown.email/a-very-good-year. Last but not least, if you'd like to make a donation to support us in the show, you can do that at ko-fi.com/funcitysounds. Mike, before we go, what's your favorite movie of 1945?
Famously, all these really great directors got sent to make war movies in World War II. I mean, this is not a new story, but it just so happens that I think has to be my favorite of the genre came out in 45. It was a big year for him. There was a lot of fighting going on, but John Huston made The Battle of San Pietro. it was filmed by like 50 different like army dudes, so it doesn't necessarily have the sort of control of the visual that you know he usually has. But man, it feels like a fucking John Huston movie, dude. I mean, it really like, and it's just one of those things of like, imagine if like Kubrick got sent to Vietnam in '64, you know, or like Paul Thomas Anderson's Desert Storm movie, You know, I mean, this only happened like once. It just happened for a little while, you know, and there's 1,000 of these movies that were made and then censored and never found, you know, and there's like the great Lost John Ford invasion of whatever movie, you know, there's all so like there's a lot of sort of mythology around these things, and I think that it's not often that we actually just sit down and like watch one, you know. And if you're just gonna watch one, like watch Battle of San Pietro. It's on YouTube.
It's good, and
it's a John Huston movie, and it's a World War II movie, and it's really visceral. Considering, you know, I mean, we talk about the Hays Code, and I don't know that was really like in play for documentary movies, but you know. It is my favorite, I think, of them.
It's awesome.
And you know, if you're like sort of watching 1945 stuff, that's a great one to pick up. How about you?
You know, I almost picked Mom and Dad just to be a stinker, which is the famous sexual hygiene movie that Kroger Babb, the famous exploitation huckster, four-walled in theaters across the land for 20, 30 years. And, you know, it was hot stuff because you saw a baby being born in it. It has the best story of any movie in 1945. Like if you get Joe Bob Briggs's book, Profoundly Erotic, like the chapter on Mom and Dad is one of the best things you'll ever read about a movie. But then I finally saw Mom and Dad a few years ago when it got its long-delayed Blu-ray release, and shocker, it's kind of a shitty movie. So I'm not going to pick that. I'm going to go with Vincent Minnelli's The Clock, which I actually watched finally for the first time to prep for this show. A movie I should have watched when I did that whole goddamn book of New York movies, but I just never got around to it. And it is an incredibly charming I mean, it's like it's before Sunrise, you know, 50 years early. Like it's about an army soldier on leave and a pretty girl, and they bump into each other in Grand Central Station, and they just decide to sort of talk and hang out, and the little bit that they're hanging out becomes more and more and more, and it turns into this kind of 2-day thing of them just going around the city, or, you know, rear projections of the city, and getting to know each other. And it's just so sweet and charming and fun. And Judy Garland has never been more beautiful in a movie. You can tell that Vincent Minnelli was fucking in love with her when they made this, because he photographs her in that very specific way that a director who's in love with his leading lady does. It's just really sweet and short. It's like 90 minutes, and it's a real treat. So if like me, you've been putting off The Clock for years and years and years, move it to the top of that list. Thank you again, Joe Blake.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Jason.
And thank you for listening.
It was a very good year.